To catch you up, it's been a little over 4 months since I bought my first boat with the goal of learning to sail. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out and I've been busy fixing it up since it turned out to be nothing like as advertised. There's still a big list of jobs to tackle, but things are starting to come together. I'm finally at a point where I can spend time learning to sail instead of just working on the boat. It's taken a lot of hard work and lots of money, but we're finally at a point of being able to get insurance for it. Following on from the last video where we took the boat out and seawater was entering the cabin, we're continuing to work on the engine. After a lot of investigation and research, it seems like the main culprit is a leaking lip seal on the propeller shaft. Unfortunately, this is something we can't fix until the boat is hauled out, so for now, Jason has installed a barrier to keep the water contained in the engine bay, and we use a wet vac to remove any water that accumulates when the engine runs. Since owning the boat, there's been a noticeable chemical burning smell when the engine runs. We've traced it back to the exhaust insulation. Well, we think it's actually the glue on the tape holding the insulation in place which is causing the smell. We run through at home our plan, as it's much easier than trying to figure it out on the tiny boat, of what will apply to the exhaust once we remove the old insulation. Once on the boat, Jason removes the old stuff and applies a new insulation, and we run the engine for a good while. Thankfully, there's no horrible smell this time, so hopefully that's fixed that issue. Jason also applies some rust converter to various areas on the engine that need it. We need to figure out how to stop the engine from the cockpit. As mentioned in the last video, the existing pulley system rigged up by the previous owner doesn't work. Currently, whenever I want to shut the engine off, I open the engine bay and manually push on the throttle linkage to reduce the RPM until the engine stalls. It's not terrible, but it'd be nice to have a better solution. It's another great weather forecast for the coming weekend, so we make a plan for an overnight trip to Waiheke Island together. Waiheke Island is located about 18 kilometres or 11 miles away, a short cruise from Auckland's Waitemata harbour from downtown, and the second largest island in the Hauraki Gulf. To sail there, it typically takes 2 to 3 hours, and its coastline is dotted with rocky outcrops and reefs, especially near the headlands and shallows. We slowly sailed, probably very inefficiently as we're novices, from the marina to Oneroa Bay, heading north through the Rangitoto Channel. Along the way we passed Rakino and Motutapu Islands and then headed east passing through the Rakino Channel onto Waiheke. As you can see here, Jason's sailing style is much more relaxed than mine. Oneroa Bay is often filled with lots of expensive boats and can get pretty busy at times. Jason and I have visited many times before, either by ferry and then bus or on his trailer boat, but this was the first time for both of us entering the bay on a sailboat. We take turns at the helm and enjoy a slow cruise together, taking time to soak up some of the sun before autumn finally arrives. The heat disappears from the sun and we enter Oneroa Bay. I must admit, I wouldn't have felt confident enough to anchor here if Jason hadn't been with me. The anchorages in the bay are very close to other boats, and there's a lot to consider: wind direction and potential shifts, depths, tides, swell, the risk of my anchor dragging or someone else's dragging. It can be quite overwhelming, especially with so many variables to keep track of and so many big expensive boats in close proximity. We took a slow lap around the bay to figure out our best spot to anchor. Jason's a pro at this, and it was fun cruising around taking it all in. Once we found our spot, we anchored and waited to make sure the anchor had properly grabbed. I'll admit, I find it really hard to be sure whether we're dragging or not at this point, so I felt pretty anxious. We then noticed a wet patch on the carpet inside the boat and our hearts sink after the issues we had on our last trip, but luckily we found the culprit. It was just a leaky drinking water container. I've happily set my boat up for a cosy overnighter and found places to store most of the things we are using so it doesn't feel too cluttered. Oneroa Bay is one of the most popular anchorages on Waiheke Island. It's located on the northern side of the island and is very accessible. The only downside we experienced is that it's open to the north and can be a bit rolly overnight if there's a swell. Once we were happy that my boat and the surrounding boats weren't dragging anchor, I decided to give inflating my tender a go for the first time. It took a bit of getting hang of, and I haven't mastered the right technique for lifting it over the side and into the water just yet, but I'm sure with more practice I'll get the hang of it. We rode into the beach and, like everyone else, left the tender in the bushes to keep it out of the way. The beach provides an easy dinghy landing, and from there it's a short stroll into Oneroa village, the island's main hub, where you'll find cafes, wine bars, boutique shops and a small supermarket. For wine lovers, the vineyards of Mudbrick and Cable Bay are within walking distance and offer some lovely views. We walked up to the town and had dinner at a local restaurant, which had a lovely view over the bay. It was pretty cool being able to see my boat from there. Even though it was easily the smallest and the oldest, it was still there. I did notice that I'll probably need to update my anchor light with an LED one, as it looked pretty dim compared to the others. We took the time to plan our route back the next day using Navionics. We created a route which would give us a rough idea of how long it would take to get back, using an average speed and the distance. The next morning, after a rolly night, we woke up to a beautiful sunrise and once again rode to the beach. I took my drone along and managed to capture some stunning footage of the sunrise, but unfortunately the SD card was corrupted and the footage has been lost. So you'll just have to use your imagination. It'd been very stormy during the end of the week and lots of debris had washed up onto the beach, including several different types of starfish. Jason's foot for size comparison, we wandered back up the steep hill to the village, took a little walk around and enjoyed a nice coffee at the only place that was open so early. Once we got back to the boat, we noticed that the wind had shifted and we were now in shallower water as we had swung round in the other direction, so we needed to up anchor and move on. We thought about moving slightly further out to deeper water, but in the end decided to sail on to Rakino Island, which was on the way home and another beautiful spot. The winds were very light, so we just took our time, tidying up the boat while sailing, packing away anything we didn't need and enjoying the scenery. As we left Waiheke, we had great views of the Noises, a group of islands a little further north in the Hauraki Gulf, along with more of Waiheke's headland and some beautiful scenery passing Tapu Island. It seems to be the time of year where there's a lot of bird activity on the water, which is a sure sign that there are plenty of fish beneath the surface. We passed through a large group of birds, all patiently waiting on the water for their next meal. We had only one tack for the entire passage, which of course we've managed to make look incredibly messy and uncoordinated. The main sheet ended up bonking Jason on the head, I tripped over him, but in the end it got the job done nevertheless. Rakino is a small peaceful island tucked between Tapu and the northern tip of Waiheke. It has no shops or cafes and only a scattering of holiday homes. You can also reach Rakino Island from Auckland's downtown ferry terminal. While Jason jumps in and checks the keel and scrapes off any debris or oysters, I head into one of the island's beaches with my drone and a new SD card in hand.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Turn this room, turn it to an ocean. Let me float around. Eyes closed, like we're dreaming even when we're not. You and me got a whole other meaning, I don't know how.
The forecast had changed overnight and strong winds of up to 50 knots were now expected from the north. Luckily, they weren't due to arrive until we'd made it back to the marina. The seas were noticeably rougher, and we ended up having a much sportier sail back from Rakino than we had anticipated, but nothing too daunting. Feeling more confident each time I head out, join us next time for more sailing adventures around Hauraki Gulf.